The man seen on this train attacking Irina Zarutska, the young woman who moved to the U.S. from Ukraine to escape war back home, is facing federal murder charges, and President Trump is calling for the death penalty, writing that Decarlos Brown should be given a quick trial and only awarded the death penalty. There can be no other option.
Well, it doesn't look like there's going to be a speedy trial. Unfortunately, that tends to be the case in our justice system, even though our Constitution is supposed to guarantee one. But it does also look as though prosecutors have moved forward, or at least progressed in the direction of punishing the alleged perpetrator of Irina Zarutska's stabbing death to the death penalty. And so Decarlos Brown Jr. Is the suspect in this fatal stabbing that ended up capturing the attention of many people in this country. And the stabbing took place on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so the grand jury has officially indicted Decarlos Brown Jr. on federal charges. He's being charged with violence against a railroad carrier and mass transportation system resulting in death. Additionally, the grand jury found that Brown intentionally killed Irina Zarutska in the August 22nd attack on a Charlotte area transit system bus. The federal indictment states that charge makes him eligible for the death penalty. And remember, for those who don't know or maybe have forgotten, Irina Zarutska is actually a Ukrainian refugee. She fled war-torn Ukraine for safety and ended up getting killed here in the United States on public transit. According to the arrest affidavit, there was no interaction between the victim and the defendant. I mean, if you watch the video, you can see that very clearly. The surveillance video shows Zarutska entering the light rail car, and she ends up just sitting in front of Brown. 4 minutes later, Brown pulled out a pocket knife and stabbed her 3 times before walking away. And then Zarutska was pronounced dead at the scene. So the thing about this case is that it's so similar to other devastating cases that have occurred across the country, where you have someone who has a history of committing violent crimes, but also has a history of severe mental health issues and hasn't been getting the help necessary to kind of keep that under control. His mother is on the record saying that he's schizophrenic and hasn't been taking medication for it, which can be obviously very dangerous. And now it is likely that he's facing the death penalty. Cenk.
Yeah, so look, if he has significant mental health problems, I think that mental health treatment is the right answer, but that doesn't mean let him go, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of times we in this country, we keep going to these weirdo binary options. Either we're going to execute him, just kill him, or he's got a mental health problem, so let's let him go and freedom. Wait, what? No, let's get him treatment. And yeah, but do it in a way where, sorry, but after you kill someone, you're gonna have an awfully difficult time getting out of there, right? So, and that's how it should be. And Hinckley, who actually shot at and nearly killed the US President Ronald Reagan, eventually did come out, right? So, I mean, look, these are all different cases with different fact patterns. But I'll just quick anecdote. Guys, yesterday I go to get gas. Older looking white guy with a beard, but like, okay clothes, but he had a cut on his nose. He almost looks like, if you looked at him from a distance, like out of a Norman Rockwell painting, but he's wandering around, he comes to talk to me, and he's obviously got significant mental health issues, right? And I thought, so this brother is just gonna walk around until something terrible happens to him, right? Until he gets run over by a car or somebody robs him or whatever happens, right? The system we have here, where we just let people with massive mental health problems just walk around because of #freedom, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense at all. No, we have to help them before, by the way, they either get hurt, like the guy that I was referring to that I'm worried about from last night, or they hurt someone else, like this case, in a disastrous way. We've got to have a system where we could do involuntary confinement, but not to like gulags and not willy-nilly. You have to pass a stringent standards to get there. But just letting people walk around with these mental health issues is disastrous and makes no sense.
I totally agree. And I mean, in this particular case, the specific case, we're talking about someone who killed an innocent person. So an innocent person lost their life. And for those who think that it's the humane thing to allow someone with severe mental illness to, just roam the streets, because they think it's the humane thing to do. Again, now he's facing the death penalty. Like, how is this the humane thing to do? It's just not. And I think we all know that. The real question is, how do we implement a policy that actually is humane? Because I think on one side you have people who are they have legit worries and concerns because of the dark history this country has with the asylum system. But it doesn't mean we have to go back to asylums, okay? We can actually do better. That was the whole point. Shutting down those asylums was meant to essentially shift the responsibility of mental care, inpatient mental care, to counties. But that never happened, right? And so they just shut down asylums and then never offered any type of alternative. And the alternative is supposed to be a humane way of providing the treatment that people desperately need. But we all know that also costs money, right? So that's the real issue here. Now, as much as people want swift justice in this case, it doesn't really appear that it's going to come as fast as people would like. So Brown was scheduled to have a Rule 24 court hearing on October 16th, meaning a hearing determining whether the state would pursue the death penalty. But according to court documents cited by local news outlets, this hearing has now been delayed until April 2026. That's the other thing that never gets discussed when it comes to our broken criminal justice system. Just the fact that we are overwhelmed, I guess, and there really aren't any speedy trials unless someone is just kind of willing to plead guilty and take some sort of deal. And according to local news outlet WBTC, the reason why the hearing was delayed was redacted, but many believe it's due to the state of his mental health. So Brown's mental health circumstance made the delay appropriate. Matthew Mangino, a former district attorney in Lawrence County, Pennsylvania, told Newsweek, more than likely, this delay is about Brown's competency, he said. The Rule 24 death penalty hearing requires that the defendant understand the proceeding and is capable of aiding in his defense. So if that is actually what's leading to the delay, I actually have no problem with that, because you do want to make sure that the defendant is competent to stand trial. I think that's the right thing to do here. But considering the abundance of evidence that he did in fact carry out this murder or this manslaughter, it's not looking good for him.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of attention to this case, so he's in a world of trouble. But delaying it so that they can determine whether he's competent to stand trial is very normal. That's usually how things work in America. So this trial will be somewhat politicized, but again, he definitely did it. That's not the question. The question is, yes, but what are we going to do with him?
Right. And what do we do to prevent this in the future? That's the bigger question.
Yep. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.